There's a moment when you realize nobody's coming, nobody's checking on you, nobody cares if you disappear. For Henry Dawson, that moment lasted 15 years. 70 years old, retired cab driver, living alone in Cleveland. His wife left decades ago, his kids barely called, and the church. He walked away after they made him feel invisible. 15 years without prayer, without God, without hope, until one rainy night on I-90, his cab collided with a truck. His heart stopped. For 11 minutes, he was gone, but in those 11 minutes, he met someone who knew his name, someone who said, "Go back, find the ones who left, be a bridge." When Henry woke up, everything changed, not just for him but for an entire community that forgot what grace looked like. The question is, when God gives you a second chance, what do you do with it? Have you ever felt forgotten? Like you don't belong anywhere? Maybe you walked away from church because it hurt too much. Maybe you're still carrying that pain. Henry's story is about second chances, about coming home, about finding the people the world forgot. Before we begin, we want to hear from you. Where are you listening from right now? Drop a comment below with your city and state, and if this story speaks to your heart, just type Amen. Let us know you're out there, whether you're in Texas, California, New York, or anywhere in between. We want to connect with you, and if you believe in second chances, hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Let's walk this journey together. My name's Henry Dawson, I'm 70, and for most of my life, I've been invisible. You know the type, the guy you don't really see, the cab driver, the janitor, the man in the back pew nobody talks to. That was me. I worked my whole life. Auto shops when I was 17, then warehouses, loading trucks, stacking boxes, then janitorial work when my back gave out. Finally, taxi driving. That was supposed to be easy, my retirement gig. But there's nothing easy about being old and invisible. People would get in my cab, stare at their phones, treat me like part of the seat. Sometimes they'd complain, sometimes they wouldn't tip. Most of the time they'd just forget I existed the second they got out. I told myself it didn't bother me. I told myself I didn't need anybody. I lived in a small apartment on East 55th Street, one bedroom, kitchen the size of a closet, a couch I'd had since 1987. The place smelled like old coffee, the walls were thin. I could hear my neighbor's TV every single night. Some reality show, same voices, same fake drama. I didn't have much. A beat-up yellow cab, a pension that barely covered rent, a fridge with leftovers I never finished, and silence. God, the silence was the worst part. I used to be married. Her name was Caroline. We got married young, had 2 kids. I thought we'd make it, but somewhere along the way, I became the man she stopped talking to, the man she looked past at the dinner table. And one day, she just left, took the kids, moved to Columbus, started over. I didn't fight it, just signed the papers and kept working. My son David, he's 43 now, works in IT, married, got a kid. I see pictures on Facebook sometimes. He doesn't call much, maybe twice a year, and when he does, it's awkward, like we're strangers pretending to be related. My daughter Rebecca, she's 40. She used to be close to me. When she was little, she'd sit on my lap and we'd watch cartoons. She'd laugh so hard she'd snort. But after the divorce, she pulled away, blamed me for everything, and maybe she was right. I stopped trying to convince her otherwise. So yeah, 70 years old, alone, nobody waiting for me at home, nobody who'd notice if I didn't wake up tomorrow. And honestly, I'd made peace with it. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I used to go to church, New Hope Community Church, small place on the west side, red brick building, white steeple, parking lot that floods when it rains. Nothing fancy, just a neighborhood church. I started going about 20 years ago, right after Caroline left. I thought maybe I'd find something there, some kind of comfort, some kind of community. At first, it was okay. People were polite. They'd shake my hand, say, "Good morning, brother." I'd sit in the back pew, listen to the sermon, leave before anyone could ask me to stay for coffee. But one Sunday, I decided to try. I walked into the fellowship hall after service, grabbed a cup of coffee, stood there like an idiot, holding my styrofoam cup, waiting for someone to talk to me. And you know what happened? Nothing. People talked around me, past me, through me. I stood there for 15 minutes. Not one person said a word to me. Finally, I threw the coffee away and left. The next Sunday, I tried again. This time I worked up the courage to say hello to one of the elders, Mr. Grafton, older guy, gray beard, always wore a suit. I said, "Morning, Mr. Grafton." He looked at me, not warm, not cold, just blank. "Morning," he said, and walked away. That was it. No "how are you?" No "glad you're here," just morning. Then there was Sister Patricia, head deaconess, ran the women's ministry, the prayer chain, all of it. I saw her one Sunday after service, handing out flyers for a church potluck. I walked up and said, "Excuse me, Sister Patricia, is this open to everyone?" She glanced at me, not unkind, just distracted. "Oh, it's more for the members who've been here a while," she said. "You know, the regulars." I wasn't a regular. Message received. I kept going for a few more months, but every Sunday, I felt smaller, like I was shrinking, like I didn't belong. And one Sunday, I just stopped. I told myself it was fine. I didn't need church, didn't need people, didn't need God. 15 years, I didn't step foot in that building. 15 years, I didn't pray. 15 years, I convinced myself I was better off alone. But here's the thing, I wasn't better off. I was just numb. Every day felt the same. Wake up, coffee, drive the cab, come home, TV, sleep, repeat. I didn't have hobbies, didn't have friends, didn't have anything to look forward to. Sometimes, late at night, I'd sit on my couch and wonder, what's the point? What's the point of waking up if nobody cares whether you do or not? I never said it out loud, but the thought was there, quiet, persistent. Maybe the world would be better off without me. October 14th. I remember the date because it was a Tuesday, and Tuesdays were always slow. It had been raining all day, not a drizzle, heavy, relentless rain, the kind that turns the roads into mirrors, and makes your windshield wipers useless. I should have stayed home. My pension check had come in that week. I didn't need the money that bad, but I went out anyway, because what else was I going to do? Sit in my apartment and stare at the walls. I drove around for hours, picked up a couple fares, a woman going to the grocery store, a guy heading to the airport. Nobody tipped. Around 9 p.m., I was driving east on I-90, near the lake. It was dark. The rain was coming down so hard I could barely see 10 feet ahead. And then headlights, bright, blinding. A pickup truck came out of nowhere, spinning across the median, hydroplaning straight into my lane. I slammed the brakes. Too late. Metal, glass, the sound of everything breaking, and then nothing. I don't remember the impact. They told me later that a truck driver saw the whole thing, called 911. Said it looked like a bomb went off. My cab was totaled, front end completely crushed. The pickup that hit me flipped twice. The driver walked away with a broken arm. Me? I wasn't so lucky. The paramedics got there fast. That's what saved me, they said. If they'd been 5 minutes later, I'd have bled out right there on the highway. They pulled me out of the wreck. My chest was crushed, ribs broken, lung collapsed, internal bleeding. I wasn't breathing. They did CPR in the ambulance, shocked me twice, got my heart going again, rushed me to Metro Health. I don't remember any of it. What I do remember is this. I was standing in a hallway, not the hospital hallway, somewhere else, somewhere in between. It was quiet, too quiet. No beeping machines, No voices, just this low, distant hum, like the sound of wind through trees. I looked down at my hands. They looked solid, real, but I felt light, like I weighed nothing. I turned around, and that's when I saw it. My body. I was lying on a gurney, surrounded by doctors and nurses. They were moving fast, talking, shouting, hands covered in blood. My blood. One of the doctors was doing chest compressions, another one was hooking up IVs, a nurse was cutting away my shirt, and I was just standing there, watching. I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel pain. I just felt detached, like I was watching a movie. One of the doctors yelled, "We're losing him." Charged to 200. They pressed the paddles to my chest. My body jerked. Nothing. Again. 300. Another jolt. Still nothing. I heard one of the nurses say, "It's been 7 minutes." 7 minutes. That's when I realized I was dead. Or dying. Or something in between. I don't know how long I stood there. Time felt wrong. Like it didn't exist. Like I could have been there for 10 seconds or 10 hours. And it would have felt the same. And then I felt it. A pull. Not physical. Not like someone grabbing my arm. More like gravity, but in reverse. Like something was calling me. I turned away from my body. And I started walking. I walked down the hospital hallway. But it wasn't the hospital anymore. The walls were gone. The ceiling was gone. Everything was just light. Soft. Warm. Gold. It didn't hurt to look at. It didn't feel blinding. It just felt safe. I kept walking. And then I saw them. Rebecca, my daughter. She was sitting in a waiting room chair, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. She was crying. I stopped. I wanted to reach out. I wanted to say, "Becca, I'm here. I'm okay." But I couldn't. I just stood there, watching her fall apart. And then I saw David, my son. He was standing next to her, staring at the floor. His jaw was tight. His hands were clenched. He looked angry, not at me, at everything, at the world, at God. I felt something crack inside me. All those years I told myself they didn't care. All those years I convinced myself I was better off without them. I was wrong. They were here. They came. I don't know how long I watched them, but eventually, the pull got stronger. The light got brighter, and I turned away. I started walking again, and this time, I wasn't walking toward anything. I was walking into it. The light didn't have edges. It didn't have a source. It was just everywhere. I wasn't walking on anything. I wasn't floating. I was just moving, and the light moved with me. I felt warm, not hot, not burning, just warm, like sitting in the sun on a spring afternoon. And I felt clean. I know that sounds weird, but that's the only word for it. Like every heavy thing I'd been carrying just fell away. The shame, the loneliness, the anger, gone. I stopped, and I realized I wasn't alone anymore. There was someone standing in front of me. I couldn't see his face. Not clearly. The light was too bright. But I could see his shape, his outline. He was tall, strong, but not in a way that felt intimidating. He felt safe, and I knew without being told, without hearing a voice, I knew who he was. Jesus. I dropped to my knees, not because I was told to, not because I was afraid. I just couldn't stand. And then he spoke. His voice didn't sound like thunder. It didn't echo. It was quiet, gentle, but it filled everything. "Henry," that's all he said. My name. And I started crying. I don't know why. I hadn't cried in years. But hearing him say my name, it broke something in me. All the years I thought he forgot about me. All the years I thought I wasn't worth his time. He knew my name. He knelt down beside me, and he put his hand on my shoulder. I felt it. I swear I felt it. Warm, solid, real. "Henry," he said again, "why did you carry all that pain alone?" I couldn't answer. I just kept crying. He didn't rush me. He just stayed there, his hand on my shoulder. And then he showed me. It wasn't like watching a movie. It was more like remembering, but clearer. Sharper, I saw myself at the church, standing in the fellowship hall, holding that styrofoam cup of coffee. I saw Mr. Grafton walk past me, but this time, I saw something I didn't see before. He was grieving. His wife had just been diagnosed with cancer. He was barely holding it together. He didn't ignore me because he didn't care. He was drowning. And then I saw Sister Patricia, the woman who told me the potluck was for the regulars. I saw her that same morning, crying in her car before service. Her son had just told her he was getting a divorce. She was heartbroken. She wasn't trying to exclude me. She was just overwhelmed. And then I saw myself, 15 years ago, walking out of that church. And I saw what I didn't see then. There were people who noticed. A young woman in the back row who saw me leave. She almost got up to follow me, but she hesitated, and I was gone. An older man who'd been praying for me every Sunday. I didn't know. He never told me. A deacon who wanted to reach out, but he didn't know how. They weren't perfect, but they weren't monsters. They were just people, broken, tired, trying their best, just like me. Jesus looked at me. Henry, he said softly, there are no perfect people. Not in the church. Not anywhere. I nodded. I was still crying. You thought you were forgotten, he said. But I never forgot you. Not once. I looked up at him. Then why? My voice cracked. Why did it hurt so much? He didn't answer right away. And then he said, because you never brought the pain to me. That hit me harder than the crash. Harder than anything. Because he was right. I'd spent 15 years angry, hurt, bitter, but I never once asked him to heal it. I just walked away, and blamed everyone else. Jesus stood up, and he reached out his hand. I took it, and he pulled me to my feet. Henry, he said, I'm sending you back. My heart sank. Back? I whispered, but why? I don't have anything left down there. He smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one, but it was enough. Yes, you do, he said. And then he showed me something else. I saw faces, dozens of them, people I didn't know, people I'd never met, old, young, black, white, Latino, Asian. All of them had one thing in common. They'd walked away, from church, from faith, from God, just like me, and they were still out there. Still lonely, still hurting, still convinced they didn't matter. Jesus looked at me. Go back, he said, and find them. I stared at him. Lord, I'm just a cab driver. I'm nobody. He put his hand on my chest, right over my heart. That's why I'm sending you, he said. The light started to fade. I panicked. Wait, Lord, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to say. His voice echoed as everything went dark. I'll be with you. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my body, and let me tell you, it hurt. Everything hurt. My chest felt like someone had parked a truck on it. My ribs screamed with every breath. My head pounded. My throat was raw. I tried to move, but I couldn't. Tubes everywhere. Wires. Beeping machines. I blinked. The lights were too bright. A nurse noticed. She leaned over me. Mr. Dawson? Can you hear me? I tried to nod. Barely. She turned and yelled, he's awake. Get the doctor. Footsteps. Voices. More people crowding around. A doctor shined a light in my eyes. Mr. Dawson, I'm Drive Patel. You've been in a serious accident. You're in the ICU. Do you understand? I tried to talk. My voice came out like sandpaper. How long? Drive Patel glanced at the nurse. You were in surgery for 6 hours, she said, and your heart stopped for 11 minutes during the operation. 11 minutes. I remembered. The light. Jesus. His hand on my shoulder. You're very lucky to be alive, Drive Patel said. We weren't sure you'd make it. Lucky. I wanted to laugh. Luck had nothing to do with it. They kept me in the ICU for 3 days. Rebecca came every day. She'd sit in the chair next to my bed, holding my hand, not saying much, just there, David came too, less often, but he came. One afternoon, Rebecca fell asleep in the chair. Her head was tilted back, her mouth slightly open. She looked exhausted. I watched her for a long time, and I thought about what Jesus said. Go back, find them. I'd spent 15 years thinking my family didn't care, but they were here. Maybe they'd always cared. Maybe I was just too stubborn to see it. When Rebecca woke up, I said her name. Becca. She sat up, startled. Dad. You okay? You need something? I shook my head. I'm sorry. Her face crumpled. Dad, don't. No, I said. My voice was still weak, but I meant it. I'm sorry. For everything. For not being there. For shutting you out. I stopped. My throat tightened. She squeezed my hand. Dad, it's okay. It's not, I whispered, but I want to make it right. If you'll let me. She started crying, and she leaned forward and hugged me, careful not to hurt me, and whispered, I thought I was going to lose you. I closed my eyes. You didn't. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. 2 weeks later, they moved me out of the ICU, into a regular room. Then a week after that, they sent me home. I couldn't drive yet, couldn't do much of anything, really. Rebecca came by every day to check on me, brought groceries, made sure I took my meds. David came once, stayed for 20 minutes. We didn't talk much, but he came. That was something. One morning, about a month after the accident, I was sitting on my couch, the same couch I'd sat on for 15 years. The same couch where I'd spent so many nights wondering what the point was. But this time, it felt different. I wasn't wondering anymore. I knew. Jesus told me to go back, to find the ones who left, to be a bridge, and I was going to do it. But first, I had to go back to the place I left. New Hope Community Church. It took me another 2 weeks to work up the courage. Every morning, I'd wake up thinking, today's the day. I'm going back. And every morning, I'd find some excuse not to. My ribs still hurt. I was too tired. I didn't know what to say. But the truth was, I was scared. Scared they wouldn't want me. Scared they'd look at me the same way they did 15 years ago. Scared I'd walk in and feel invisible all over again. But Jesus didn't send me back to be comfortable. He sent me back to do something. So one Sunday morning, I got dressed, put on my only clean shirt, combed my hair, and walked out the door. The church looked exactly the same. Red brick, white steeple, parking lot half full. I stood outside for a long time. My hands were shaking. I almost turned around. But then I heard his voice again, not out loud, just in my head. I'll be with you. I took a deep breath, and I opened the door. Inside, people were chatting after service, laughing, drinking coffee. I stood in the doorway, frozen, and then someone saw me. Mr. Grafton, the elder who'd walked past me 15 years ago. He stopped mid-conversation, his eyes went wide, and then he walked toward me. I braced myself. I didn't know what he was going to say, but when he got close, his face softened. Henry, he said quietly, you came back. I nodded. I didn't trust my voice. He looked at me for a long moment, and then he said, I'm sorry. I blinked. What? I'm sorry, he said again, for how I treated you. Back then, I was going through something. My wife was sick. I wasn't myself. But that's no excuse. I should have been kinder. I felt my eyes burn. I thought you didn't want me here. He shook his head. No, Henry, that was never true. And then he did something I didn't expect. He hugged me, not a quick, polite hug, a real one, and I felt 15 years of weight lift off my shoulders. After that, people started coming over. Sister Patricia, the deacon, the young woman who'd almost followed me out all those years ago, they welcomed me, they asked how I was, they listened, and for the first time in 15 years, I didn't feel invisible, I felt seen. When I left that day, I didn't feel scared anymore, I felt ready. ready to do what Jesus asked me to do: find the ones who left, and bring them home. A few days after I went back to church, I started making a list. Not on paper, just in my head. People I remembered. People who used to come to New Hope but didn't anymore. People who, like me, just disappeared one day. The first name that came to mind was Bill Turner. Bill and I weren't exactly friends, but we talked a few times. He used to sit 3 rows ahead of me, always wore a flannel shirt, always smiled, and then one day, he stopped coming. I asked around at church. Someone told me Bill was going through a rough patch, lost his job, started drinking, moved to a trailer park on the south side. Nobody had seen him in years, so I decided to go find him. It took me a while to track down the address. The trailer park was off Route 422, past the old steel mill. Rows of rusted trailers with sagging porches and chain-link fences. I found Bill's place at the end of the row, number 47. The porch light was out, beer cans stacked by the door. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Go away. A voice yelled from inside. I cleared my throat. Bill. It's Henry Dawson, from church. Silence. Then the door cracked open, just a few inches. Bill looked rough, unshaven, bloodshot eyes. He stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. Henry, he said slowly, what the hell are you doing here? I gave him a small smile. I came to see you. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. Yeah. Well, I'm not worth seeing. That's not true, I said. He shook his head and started to close the door. Bill, wait. He stopped. I walked away too, I said. From the church. From God. For 15 years, and I thought nobody cared. But I was wrong. He looked at me, his jaw tightened. Why are you really here, Henry? I took a breath. Because Jesus told me to find you. Bill didn't invite me in that day, but he didn't slam the door either. He just stood there, looking at me like he didn't know what to say. Finally, he said, I'm not ready, man. That's okay, I said. I'll come back. And I did. The next week, I showed up with groceries. Bread, eggs, coffee. I left them on his porch. The week after that, I brought a pizza. This time, he opened the door. You're stubborn, you know that. He said. I shrugged. I've been told. He looked at the pizza, then at me. You gonna make me eat alone? I smiled. Not if you invite me in. He sighed, and opened the door wider. We sat at his tiny kitchen table. The place was a mess. Dishes piled in the sink, empty bottles on the counter. But Bill was talking, and I was listening. He told me about losing his job, about his wife leaving, about how he started drinking to numb the pain. I went to church for help, he said, but I felt like I didn't belong, like I was too broken. I nodded. I know that feeling. He looked at me. So what changed? For you, I told him, about the accident, about dying, about meeting Jesus, about being sent back. Bill didn't say anything for a long time. Then he said, you really think God cares about someone like me? I looked him in the eye. I know he does. Bill didn't come to church right away, but he started calling me. We'd talk on the phone, sometimes for hours, and slowly, I saw him change. He cut back on the drinking, started cleaning up his trailer, got a part-time job at a hardware store. 3 months later, he walked through the doors of New Hope Community Church. I was sitting in my usual spot in the back, and when I saw him, I stood up, walked over, and hugged him. Welcome home, brother, I whispered. After Bill, I found others. There was Sharon, a woman in her 60s who stopped coming after her husband died. She'd been sitting alone in her house for 2 years, convinced God had abandoned her. I knocked on her door one afternoon. I don't want visitors, she said through the crack. I'm not a visitor, I said. I'm a friend. She let me in. We drank tea, and I listened. A month later, she came back to church. There was Marcus, a young guy, mid-30s. He left the church after he came out as gay and felt judged. I found him working at a coffee shop downtown. "Why are you here?" he asked when I walked up to the counter. "Because I think you've been carrying something heavy," I said. "And I want you to know you're not alone." We talked for an hour. He cried. I cried. He didn't come back to church, but he started meeting me for coffee every week. And that was enough. There was Carol, a single mom who felt like she was failing at everything. She stopped coming because she couldn't afford the offering. "Church isn't about money," I told her. "It's about family." I helped her find a food pantry, helped her apply for assistance. She came back, and brought her 2 kids. One by one, people started returning. Not because I was special. The church started to feel different. More hugs, more laughter, more real conversations. Pastor Jim pulled me aside one Sunday. "Henry," he said, "I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it." I shook my head. "It's not me, Pastor, it's him." 6 months after the accident, something happened I never thought I'd see. I was sitting in church one Sunday morning. The service was about to start, and then the door opened. I turned around, and there she was, Rebecca, my daughter. She was holding her son's hand, my grandson, a little boy I'd only seen in pictures. She saw me, and she smiled. I felt my eyes fill with tears. She walked down the aisle, and sat right next to me. "Hi, Dad," she said softly. I couldn't speak. I just reached over and squeezed her hand, and she squeezed back. After the service, we went to lunch, the 3 of us. My grandson's name was Tyler. He was 6, shy, but sweet. "Grandpa," he said, "Mom says you came back from heaven." I looked at Rebecca. She blushed. I told him you had an accident," she said, "and that God gave you a second chance." I looked at Tyler. "That's right," I said, "and you know what? God gives everyone second chances." Tyler smiled, and in that moment, I realized this was why I came back. Not just for the people at church, but for my family. David came around too. Slower, but he came. He showed up at my apartment one evening. "I've been thinking," he said, "about what you said, about second chances." I nodded. "I'm sorry I wasn't a better dad," I said. He looked down. "I'm sorry I wasn't a better son." We stood there in silence for a moment, and then he stepped forward and hugged me. "I'm glad you're still here," he whispered. "Me too, son, me too." A year after the accident, New Hope Community Church wasn't the same place. I left 15 years ago. It was warmer, fuller, more alive. Pastor Jim started a ministry called The Ones Who Left. It was my idea, but he made it official. Every week, we'd go out and find people who walked away, people who felt forgotten, and we'd invite them back. Not with pressure, not with judgment, just with love. One evening, I was driving through the old neighborhood. My cab was gone. I couldn't drive anymore after the accident, but Rebecca had given me her old car. I pulled up to a small house on Maple Street. I'd heard about a woman who used to come to church. Her name was Diane. She stopped coming after her son got arrested. She was ashamed, embarrassed. I walked up to the door, and I knocked. She opened it, looked at me with tired eyes. "Can I help you?" I smiled. "My name's Henry. I'm from New Hope, and I just wanted to let you know you're not forgotten." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why would you say that?" "Because it's true," I said, "and because I know what it feels like to think nobody cares, but somebody does." She stood there for a long moment. Then she said, "Would you like to come in?" I nodded. "I'd love to." As I walked inside, I thought about everything that had happened. The accident, the light, Jesus, the mission he gave me. I was 71 now. My body was slower. My hands shook a little more. But my heart was alive. Because I wasn't invisible anymore. I was seen, by God, and by the people who needed to know they were seen too. The story doesn't end here. It's still going. Every day, there's someone new to find. someone new to reach, someone who thinks they've been forgotten. And every time I knock on a door, I remember what Jesus said: I'll be with you. And He is. He always has been. My name is Henry Dawson. I'm 71 years old. I died for 11 minutes. And I came back. Not because I'm special, but because God's not done with me yet. And if you're listening to this, if you've ever felt invisible, forgotten, or alone, I want you to know something. You're not. God sees you, and He's waiting, not with judgment, but with open arms. All you have to do is come home.